According to a recent survey by News Laundry and Oxfam India, it shares that not more than 5% of all articles in the English newspapers are written by Dalits and Adivasis, and in Hindi newspapers, that is around 10%. We firmly believe that the Adivasis of this country have incredible stories to tell, incredible wisdom and traditional knowledge to share. And it's high time that the rest of the country listens to Adivasi Awaz and recognizes and appreciates it.
The more non-Adivasi appreciate about Adivasi culture, the Adivasis automatically get encouraged and motivated. They are empowered by appreciation of non-Adivasi community. So I assume this podcast will be heard by more non-Adivasi community. I would ask them that we all should learn appreciating each other. Like there is no like and dislike kind of thing. The more we appreciate each other, the more we grow. In Adivasi culture, I think there are many traditional knowledge that Adivasi community hold from very ancient time, and that knowledge is unknown even by the Google. And those hidden knowledge can come forward or come in front of all of you if you start appreciating. If everybody starts appreciating, the Adivasi community will not hesitate to tell their stories.
Hi everyone, my name is Subhash and this is the podcast. This is the episode of the O Foundation Conversations. And today I have two friends from the Adivasi Lives Matter, a collective that works for promoting Adivasi producers and journalists across the country. And Adivasi Lives Matter has published many stories in that are shared by Adivasi community leaders. And with me, I have Ankush Vengudlekar and Ashish Birulee, who are the co-founders of the Adivasi Lives Matter collective. And they also work with many other partners. One of them is Youth Ki Awaaz. And under the ambit of Youth Ki Awaaz, they produce a lot of new content that sort of get shared across different platforms. So, hi, Ankush and Ashish, and very welcome to this show.
Hi, Subhashish. Pleasure to be here.
Hello, Subhashish.
Hey. So, I've just started recording, and before I even proceed with the questions or anything, let me quickly ask you about your consent. Is that okay if I record this conversation that we're going to have and publish it under an open license, most likely a CC, a Creative Commons license?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes, Subhashish.
Okay, great. Thank you both. So, either of you decide who want to go first, and then I'll mute myself.
So, hi, I'm Ankush, and I've been a trainer for nonprofits for about 7-8 years now. And I've been training nonprofits in India, Asia, pretty much globally, on how they can use digital communication tools and social media to tell the stories of the grassroots communities. And in this process of being a freelance trainer, in 2016, when I guess I was bit by a little madness bug, I picked up my bicycle and I started cycling across Odisha and Jharkhand. It turned out to be a 2,000-kilometer cycling ride over a couple of months. And I met a lot of Adivasi activists, communities, and individuals, which basically made me question my entire understanding of what the real India is, who the real Indians are, and the kind of situations in which they live. And these are the realities which, mostly having lived and grown up in Bombay and Delhi, we were completely away from. We were completely living in a bubble, so to speak. It was during my journey in Jharkhand where I met Ashish Birulee in a place called Jadugoda. And Ashish will, of course, speak more about it. But this place is home to India's first uranium mines, which is mined for nuclear power. And the kind of realities that Ashish showed me over there And after understanding that Ashish was possibly the first Adivasi photojournalist from his community and from the state of Jharkhand, whose work had been published globally, but being a resident of India, I was so completely unaware about what was going on in our own country with our own citizens. This prompted the thought to talk about this a lot more with my friends, with the urban people that I came from. And I realized
Mhm.
that having lived and grown up in privilege, we sometimes live in a bubble. And I thought, how can I challenge that bubble and make my friends, my peers, my family members understand the realities which are so far away from the news and media channels? And that's when the ideation started with Ashish and with another friend, Isha. And Isha is my co trainer, and we have been training nonprofits over the years. And we sort of asked ourselves, what can we do that the stories that the Adivasi communities want to share with the world are brought out? So what began was, the typical journey of me writing, me publishing content, me making videos, and they went semi-viral and stuff on different online platforms. But then I sort of realized that it was pretty much being the same script. Urban reporters, journalists, photographers, filmmakers go to Adivasi communities. They make videos, take photos, come to cities and publish it. But the reality never really changes on the ground with the Adivasi communities themselves. So we thought, why don't we use our privileges? Why don't we use our networks to try and create a space where Adivasis can themselves come and tell their stories? And yes, we are not saying that we were the first ones to do this at all. Adivasi Resurgence had been doing this from before, and it was amazing. Pari had been doing it to some extent, and that was great. But we soon figured that in a country which has 8.6% of population as Adivasis, we need far more platforms to do this. And that is how the concept or the idea of Adivasi Lives Matter was born, completely inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement in the US, where communities came up and spoke against the police injustice and brutality. We thought in India, we should create a platform where Adivasi youth can come forth and speak against the injustice that the government was doing, but at the same time also highlight the incredibly rich cultures. And Shubhashish, I'm sure even you would be familiar with
Mhm.
the amazing diversity that India's
Yeah,
indigenous communities
absolutely.
have. More than 700 communities who speak more than 500 languages. I mean, 104 million people, that's just a huge number, which is about 35% of the world's indigenous people in our country alone. And we realized that all of this is not really out there in public knowledge. And that's where the whole idea of Adivasi Lives Matter began, which also gave birth to our current ongoing project, Adivasi Awaz, which clearly means voice of the indigenous people, and which we thought of it a little too literally, where we thought that we should record, document, and amplify the voices and also the languages of India's Adivasi and tribal communities. So this is how the journey began back in 2016. A little loosely since then, over the last year or so, I would say we have gathered some form of structure, although still very much in a startup initial kind of mode. And I can tell you, at the least, the journey has been so incredibly humbling, so insightful, and so satisfying at a very, very deeply personal and emotional level that we are somewhere a part of a journey where young Adivasi voices are listening to their elders, documenting their stories, and bringing it out there in front of the world. And I'm really excited that we have Ashish here with us because he is the person whose voices are reaching globally, literally. And we'll be listening to him share his experiences as well.
Ashish, tell me about yourself.
My whole background is from a activist family. So from my birth to right now, I have always looked in my home that lots of activism work is happening, because in Jadugoda we have uranium mining, and my father is one of the person who started to protest against the uranium mining. So from very young age, I have looked at my father, have learned from my father. From very early age, I have been involved in activism with my father. Like lots of people come to Jadugoda, like Ankush, lots of photojournalists used to come. And I used to get involved with them, used to become an interpreter because in my local area, I'm able to speak 4 to 5 regional languages, including Hindi and English. Whoever came, I used to be involved with them in the translation. And from a very young age, like my father is a passionate photographer, and that passion inherited in me. And from that early age, I liked photography, and some filmmakers used to come, and also I was influenced from them. Even I wanted to become a filmmaker. Like in 1997, there was a documentary film made by prominent filmmaker Sri Prakash, Buddha Vapes in Jadugoda. When I watched that movie, Buddha Vapes in Jadugoda, I was very moved, and from very early age, I started watching documentaries, movie, which was not very common for my friends that time. So from that time, I thought that I would become, or in future, I would become a filmmaker. Like I didn't I didn't thought that I would become a documentary filmmaker. I was more attracted to Bollywood that time, but that sense of becoming a photographer and filmmaker, that was in me that, from that time. And being involved with lots of journalists, I thought myself, I questioned myself that why people are always coming to Jadugoda. So I thought that the whole issue of Jadugoda is very important. So I thought myself that if this issue is so important, I should also contribute, because people coming from outside, they face lots of problem in documenting here. I experienced with 2 3 photojournalists, like they documented, they stayed here, they gave lots of time and energy, but they were unable to publish. So I thought that being a local person in Jadugoda, I can contribute in a better way. And also, I also had experience that always from Jadugoda there was no daily updates of Jadugoda, because no one knew about Jadugoda in mainstream surface, and we all tribals were always dependent on photojournalists, that they will come in a year 2 or 3 times and they will cover Jadugoda story and people will come to know about it. Then I thought that this should not continue, because I thought I can also do this work, because I one of my mentor, he suggested, Ashish, you can also do this work, and he asked me, can you do the photo documentation in Jadugoda? Then I said yes, I can do. Being a local, I can do better in a better way, and I started photo documenting. And in that process in 2013, whatever photo documentation I had done in Jadugoda, all those photos were exhibited in Uranium Film Festival in Ranchi, and further I got opportunities to do the exhibition in Brazil, Japan. And in 2016, when Ankush came to Jadugoda, I met him. Even he is a passionate photographer, and we discussed a lot about photography and filmmaker. And when he did a story about Jadugoda, and when he went back to his state, and from there he told me the idea about Adivasi Lives Matter, and he told me about his idea, I I said yes, I will be a part of this. And what I liked about Adivasi Lives Matter is Ankush told me that every time Adivasi is a community whose stories, whose only the stories of their tears, only the stories of the scream are only published. There is no platform where they talk about the good aspects of Adivasis, like what they eat, how they dance, what are the languages. Then I also thought that, yeah, what Ankush is telling is very correct. I would like to contribute from my side. I would like to give example of Tamil Nadu. Like people, Tamil Nadu is famous for sambar and idli. It is not famous for about its issues. So why can't Jharkhand or Adivasi culture become is known about their beliefs, is known about their dance and culture. So that is how I got involved with Adivasi Lives Matter. So our focus is so the brighter side of about Adivasi community and also the issues of Adivasi society. So that is how we started working together.
Thank you, Ashish. And that was really inspiring and very moving story of how you personally became involved with Adivasi Lives Matter. And one of the things that I was thinking about when you were saying all these things is, what are the issues that you're trying to address through your digital activism as an individual, but also as a member of the Adivasi Lives Matter? And how do you do that?
So my main focus is to show the good side. Like right now, I am archiving my Ho Adivasi language. Like I belong from the Ho Adivasi community, so I'm trying to document everything about my Ho culture. Like like recently we had Baha festival, so I'm documenting that. So right now I am not using big cameras. Whatever resources I have, like we 24 to 7 we are having mobile cameras with us. So I'm using mobile camera. So every time I go and I use mobile camera. So this is the best equipment which I have right now. So and other thing is my main major focus is on uranium mining because I live in Jadugoda and the problems we are surrounded with, I cannot avoid that issue. So parallelly, I am focusing on uranium mining and also about the richness of Adivasi culture. So I'm also one of the content creator for Adivasi Lives Matter, along with many content creators.
Okay, that's great. And I mean, I'm really also excited to share that now. I mean, you would be already aware that there are a lot of new tools and apps in Ho that people are using, which means that the digital documentation of the whole language would increase eventually. I mean, I know a friend who is also from Jharkhand, and he's contributing to the whole Wikipedia, and right now it's in incubator, but eventually it will be out, and there'll be a whole Wikipedia for the community to read and contribute and so on. The next question that I have, I mean, one of you could answer. Ankush, if you want to answer, please unmute yourself and answer this. What I want to ask you is, how do you ensure the participation of Adivasi communities through this activism work that Adivasi Lives Matter is doing?
Yeah, so I would begin from my own personal experience. So, like I said, I am one of the content creator. So last year in the month of November, we had a training in Tamil Nadu. So Ankush invited me and I became one of the participants there. And I was very much surprised because there were Adivasi content creators who were being trained there. And I was surprised, like, Adivasis also stay in Tamil Nadu, and I was surprised that they were 36 tribes in Tamil Nadu, which is more than Jharkhand. We have 32 tribes in. So that first interaction with Adivasis in Tamil Nadu changed my whole understanding. Like, we had a limited interaction with people, Adivasi people who are living in other states. Like within Jharkhand, like in my region, I interact with Santhal community, Bhumij community, but I have never interacted with communities like Khadia, like Birhor, people from Birhor community. So it was very uh, influencing for me, and I thought this is a platform where all the network of Adivasis can be combined together. And right now in Adivasi Lives Matter, we organized Insta Lives, and lots of Adivasi, like Adivasi from Gujarat, who is a Praful Vasawa. He was one of the guest speaker, and Nitisha Khalko, and also one very interesting and very talented Adivasi guy who is working on linguistic. And I never knew that from my own Adivasi community, people are doing such wonderful work. And also I also got an opportunity to talk with Soni Sori. So from Soni's story, I came to know about the issues of Chhattisgarh from Bastar region. I came to know about the issues of Statue of Unity, like people have been displaced from there. And I came to know from Praful Vasava. He is a prominent activist from that place. So these Insta stories and whatever we are organizing, this is not benefiting only to me. I see from whole Adivasi perspective, it is engaging lot of Adivasi youth. In the comment section, lots of Adivasi youth, they interact, and I have seen lots of comments like they didn't know about these issues of Statue of Unity, and also we Insta Live about factory schools. So lots of youth are engaged, they are benefiting, and their participation in Adivasi Lives Matter is very enriching them with lots of other issues. And also we did some other series like Word of the Week. We asked lots of Adivasi volunteers to send us a recording about a word of Adivasi language weekly, and we published it. Like in even I did that. In I did a whole word what we say good night in my whole language. So we say Sibilli there, and I got lots of response in my Instagram page. Like people congratulated me and they told that Ashish Bhaiya, we didn't know about this word. And that series which we did, that involved a lot of people. They were, because what I experienced is people from Adivasi community, they are very ashamed. They try to hide their identity if they are migrated from tribal belt to any metro cities. So the youth who are migrated, their involvement is also very largely in Adivasi Lives Matter, and that is very moving for me. And what I like the best in Adivasi Lives Matter is lots of co-youth are involved, but non-Adivasis are also involved in Adivasi Lives Matter. And when non-Adivasi appreciate about Adivasi culture, it motivates, it inspires lots of Adivasi youth, because they say हमें शर्म आती है अपनी आदिवासी पहचान को बताने लोगों के सामने. They feel ashamed, and when they see non-Adivasis appreciating their culture, then they start talking about it. कि अभी हाँ ये अच्छा है इसलिए ये लोग बात कर रहे हैं. That is what happens in Adivasi Lives Matter. And also we did a Khush Khabar series, also Adivasi Khabre. And during COVID-19, initial stage of COVID-19, we asked lots of volunteers to contribute in translating the safety guidelines of COVID-19, and they almost translated in lots of volunteers. They were able to translate in 20 languages, but we were able to publish only seven to nine translated guidelines. That is how I think people are very much involved, and that is how they are participating. And right now also we are starting the new camp about the auction of 41 call blocks that happened. So people are getting aware, they are participating, and they feel that there is a platform which continuously talk about Adivasi culture, not about the about Adivasi tears and cries, but also something positive, something very enriching.
That's great. And thank you for sharing all these. I have a couple of follow-up questions. You mentioned about the Khush Khabre. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And that's one question. The second question is a little bit about the statistics of how many stories you have in total on Adivasi Lives Matter, and how many communities that you have worked with. And
I will tell about Khush Khabar. Khush Khabar in English it would mean like good news.
right.
So in Khush Khabar, we always publish the achievements of Adivasi people who are recognized and who have done good works in Adivasi community. Like recently, tribal girl who scored 99% in Jharkhand state.
Yes. Yes.
So that is the Khush Khabar.
Yeah.
So that is such news are published in Khush Khabar. And also I would like to also add about Adivasi Khabre. So in Adivasi Khabre, news issues about Adivasi. In Adivasi Khabre, we try to cover everything. And in Khush Khabar, only the achievements and only the good side of Adivasi.
And how many stories you have in total on the platform, the Adivasi Lives Matter platform?
I just want to add to what Ashish said, and he's explained so beautifully. So, Subhashish, the Khush Khabar is a collaborative project. And a lot of the work that we do on Adivasi Awaz and Adivasi Lives Matter is purely collaboration and amplification. Something which is at the root of Adivasi Awaz and Adivasi Lives Matter is that we never want to be the first. We never want to be the source for a breaking news or anything, because that unfortunately puts media organizations in a place of competition with each other. And in the space of Adivasi media or Adivasi generated media, we really don't think that there is a requirement for competition. Rather, there is a need for complementing. So we have always said that we are here to amplify Adivasi voices. So no matter who is sharing stories first or exclusively, we recognize that, we give due credit to those stories, and we amplify it on our platforms. A lot of times, people will come forth and tell stories that my father has done this, or my relative has done this, or I know someone who has done this. Just a couple of days ago, I would love to share this example. We shared the story of Gurcharan Murmu, who is India's first Santhal IPS officer. And I was browsing through my Facebook, and I come across his daughter, who is now a history professor in Kolkata. And she and I had this exchange on Facebook Messenger. And she said, I'm so happy and so honored that at least somebody is keeping the memory of my father alive. It's incidences like this, or an incident of Saudagar Deb Burma, this 85-year-old musician in Tripura, who honestly makes his own musical instruments.
Wow.
And about a dozen musical instruments, and sings the songs of folklore in Tripura in Kokborok language, which would otherwise just be completely lost. But our content creator over there, Khumtia Deb Burma, she found about Saudagar. She went there. She had a hearty discussion with him, made videos with him. So this is how the content for Khush Khabar or Adivasi Awaz comes. It's purely collaborative. So over the last year and a half, we have mentored about 125 Adivasi content creators, mentored and grouped them. This has happened in 5 states: Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, Tripura, and Maharashtra. And while we would absolutely love to go across the length and breadth of India. This is what our limited capacities have allowed us to do. These Adivasi creators have published more than 300 original content pieces. And when I say content pieces, these are photo based stories, articles, as well as videos. They have generated more than 7 to 8 million online impressions,
Wow.
all of their stories, which has helped us build an online audience across social media of more than 25,000 amazing and engaging people. And also, what I told you earlier, Subhashish, what we're really happy about is that uh, through the project of Adivasi Avaz, we have been able to pay more than 10 lakh rupees to these content creators for their articles, for their videos, thereby making sure that they are staying in their communities, listening and recording to the stories of their elders, and making money in this entire process.
And that's a very interesting idea about providing remuneration for work, because I mean it's a known fact. But I must repeat this, that many of the Adivasi communities are actually communities that are economically challenged, and creating a model that is supporting them financially is very, very important. And many projects don't do that. So that's really a very inspiring and a very moving story. And what has changed for good for the communities that you have worked with, particularly in the advent of education and technology and access?
So Shubhashish, this is the most fascinating thing for us, all of us, and for me as well. And Isha, we come from our training backgrounds with non-profits, and although she's not on the call here, she's very much a part of Adivasi Lives Matter in its current shape and form. Um, so what we have seen, when we go from cities, there is a certain level of arrogance that comes with being a city dweller, an urban person. And typically, urban people go to villages thinking that the villagers don't know much. With Adivasis, there is a double sort of crisis where the urban people usually think that, oh, they are ignorant, oh, they are illiterate. Because we have unfortunately always equated knowledge to degrees, because we think success and progress is counted in terms of the bank balance or materialistic possessions. But if we look at the social wealth, and if we look at the community wealth purely in terms of knowledge and culture, then I would say I, as an urban dweller, am bankrupt in terms of culture, in terms of traditional knowledge. And this has been the biggest learning, Subhashish, that we have been able to marry the traditional knowledge and the incredible wealth of information that the Adivasis already have for generations together, and give it a certain push with digital technologies. So in some places, we have, like, for example, in Chhattisgarh, we have content creators who have been using these small phones that the Raman Singh government had given to them. So they're not completely unknown to the world of mobile phones, but they were not so well versed with the smartphones. So with them, we worked and we really helped them understand how the whole smartphone space works. And although we may not like, I personally do not like everything that Mr. Ambani does, but Jio has really ushered a new era of connectivity. And it's very, very cheap. So the access of Jio internet and cheaper mobile phones, which we also support our content creators with. By the way, we've given 21 mobile handsets to our content creators where they don't have mobile phones. And in that community, they are the first ones in so many communities. We work in Gariyaband and Korba districts of Chhattisgarh, and Sepai Jala, Jampui Jala in Tripura. And in most of these places, these young Adivasis are the first ones to document their communities. So the positive impacts of this, the elders are getting so excited that, oh, the younger people are now finally interested in listening to us, in documenting the stories that we have been telling for generations together. Because honestly, Subhashish, you and I both know, and Ashish will also agree with this, that urbanization is rapidly changing all cultures, even more so for the Adivasi cultures. Minings and industries come to the village, outsiders come to the village, and then culture as we know it keeps getting changed constantly. And we are not saying that change is not going to happen. It is purely on the Adivasis to choose what they want to do. But through our work, we've realized that there are three clear groups of people. One, there are the Adivasis who have shifted to cities maybe a couple of generations ago, where their parents, their grandparents got opportunities to study or get jobs and came to cities. And these are now urban Adivasis. Second is that group who has recently migrated or still has one foot in the city and one foot in the village. So this is one group of Adivasis. And then there is a third group of Adivasis who still live in forests, in villages, in rural communities. So these three distinct group of Adivasis are there, and we continue to work with people from each of these three groups because it's not a homogeneous community. When we say Adivasis, it's not just everybody is living in the villages. There are those who live in cities and those in between as well. And in each of these places, we see that the ones who have been well versed with technology, like the youth in Tripura, they are far more quick in adapting to Insta stories and Insta lives and all of that. With Chhattisgarh or with Tamil Nadu, there are certain challenges, but I can't I can't even tell you how inspiring it is. I'll share this one example of Manohar Ekka from Chhattisgarh. He lives in a place, in a village in Garyaban district, and he does not have internet or electricity on a consistent basis in his village. So the stories that he documents, every week or so, he travels about 40, 45 kilometers, goes to the nearest town, sits there on the bus stand for about 2, 3, 4 hours, uploads all of his videos and photos to Google Photos, shares the album link with us so that we can then download, edit, and upload it. But he does that. He realizes the value, he realizes the potential in this. A couple of more examples. Khamsing Manjhi from Chhattisgarh, who is a brilliant content creator, got approached by a local news channel because they saw the videos and articles that he's been doing for Adivasi Lives Matter. And they said, "Oh, will you do this for us?" Similarly, now in Tripura, a couple of our content creators, Bindya Dev Burma, Kumtia, and Joel Dev Burma, these people are in talks with Doordarshan Tripura to see if there can be any collaborations that can happen in that space. A contributor with us, Dipti Minj, who is a writer. She's from Ranchi, but she's studying in Delhi. She's gone on and represented Adivasi Lives Matter in platforms where there are talks about female journalists. Ashish himself over here is a TEDx speaker, has gone on and spoken at the Youth Ki Awaaz Summit in Delhi, has done podcasts with Endangered Languages Project and Instagram Lives with Survival International. So, these changes are very, very real, where the young Adivasis are coming forth and saying that we are able to do things that we would have never, ever done before. At the same time, the community is benefiting, that the community's voices and stories are being recorded. And we sort of look at this as a living history project as well, Subhashish, that as the Adivasi youth document the stories of their communities, they are creating digital archives of the cultures, of the languages, so that before everything is lost or changed forever, at least this remains online for whoever is interested from the community.
Absolutely. And that's a very valuable contribution to the communities. And especially, I really like the part when you said that you bring on Adivasi makers and producers who produce stories of their own communities. And in that sense, it also becomes much more, the community, let me put it this way, the community trusts it more than anything else. And that kind of content also spreads quickly because it's made by another fellow community member. And when you're saying that, I was thinking about something that Ashish spoke about, COVID-19, which is affecting all of us right now. And with this changed reality, Ashish, what are the issues that continue to exist, and especially during the lockdown and everything? And what do you see as a way forward, how Adivasi communities are coping right now and how they're going to cope in the future going forward?
Yeah, before the COVID-19, the whole work, the whole contribution from the content creators, we were in fast track at that time. But after COVID-19, right now during this COVID-19 time, our work has slowed down. The main thing is all the content creators, when they are covering a story, they have to travel. So during this lockdown, they are not able to travel because unless they travel, they cannot get a new story, because all the content creators, they have to go to a nearby villages, they have to go to the relatives, they have to meet the experts of Adivasi communities. So they are not able to do during this time. And also one more problem is this is a monsoon period. So during this monsoon period, they are not able to do this in addition to COVID-19, because in monsoon there is a lot of electricity shutdown in village, and in villages they have very weak network, and because of this also in addition to COVID-19. So one problem is already existing, and on top of it this COVID has appeared. So it's a very challenging for them, but anyhow we are able to manage. Like we ask all the content creators to at least interview whoever they want to interview. They can send the questions to whomever they want to interview, and the person will send a video recording to them. So that is how they are also managing. And right now they can interview online, like how we are doing right now. That is very challenging. And also the bigger challenge is all our work right now is all dependent on grants. And because of this COVID-19, our ALM team has got a shortage on grants. So we are worried that from next month we would not able to support our our content creators. So we are much worried because all the economy and the money are spent on balancing COVID-19. So that is also affecting our work. And also I would like to request the listeners, and would like to encourage them that we have a co-partner organization, Prayog. So if anybody want to support our work, our content creators, that they can continue their work, then they can donate Prayog, and that is how they can be supported. And also all the content creators, whatever stories they are covering are very very important. Those stories may not be available on other platforms, because stories from Jadugoda are at least on not on the surface, but if we compare to other Adivasi communities, then stories from Jharkhand is commonly heard. Like stories from Tamil Nadu are never heard by Adivasi of Jharkhand, and even Adivasi of Tamil Nadu, they have never heard stories from Jharkhand. So this is a platform where all the stories can be read at a time, and I think and I believe all these stories need much greater attention. Like all our stories have been published on Gaon Connection, Better India, Feminism in India, and Logical India. But our bigger challenge is we look forward and we aim that all these articles must be published on bigger platforms like Hindustan Times, Times of India, Dainik Bhaskar, and Telegraph. So that is how we aim forward.
Thank you, Ashish. And yeah, I mean that's a very good sort of formal ending to the question that I was asking you.